You are tuned in to Kids
In the Pit!
Hey guys, it's Gabe from the Kids of the Pit podcast. Today I'm joined by Russ Bahorsky from Death Piggy and the very first lineup of GWAR. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I saw GWAR a few weeks ago in Baltimore, and this was a white shirt originally, and now it's uh this. It looks more like orange in person. It just for some reason on the video it's really like yellowish, but it's way like darker. I don't know why. Um
Gotcha. Yeah.
yeah, I was like I was front row and drenched in a lot of bodily fluids.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it was a bit insane. So Death Piggy came first, then GWAR came after that. So what did you do in each band?
Yeah, so let me see. Let me give you a long answer here. So you know, Dave Brocky and I, once upon a time, he was the singer for GWAR.
Yep.
We met in college. He was just starting college. I was in high school still, but hanging out down at the college in Richmond, VCU.
Yeah.
And so, we decided to put together a band. And he originally wanted to play guitar, but I said, no, I'm not a bass player. Although, since then I've picked it up, as you can see.
Yeah.
Um, and so I convinced him to sing and play bass. I played guitar for Death Piggy, and we found a drummer, and we played for several years before we kind of came up with the idea for GWAR. And I continued to play the guitar. I was the first GWAR member ever to appear on stage, and played guitar with the band for just a very little while.
Nice. Yeah, I wish I could have seen GWAR with Dave singing, because so he passed away in 2014, right?
That sounds right.
Yeah, something like that. Well, I was only like 3 years old, so I don't think I would be able really I don't think a 3-year-old can handle that.
You might not have appreciated it as much. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, are there any original members in GWAR left?
That's a good question. I don't think so. A lot of those guys have been with the band for so long, that I would consider them original to some extent, but no, none of us are left in the band. I mean, several of us are still around, but
Yeah.
but no.
Nice.
Yeah,
Have you ever like been to a GWAR concert where they like in the recently and
yeah,
like
I was so I live in Charlottesville, Virginia, which is not too far from Richmond, um, GWAR's home, and they had not played in Charlottesville in something like 30 years. So I called them up and said, hey, can I come watch? And so yeah, that was just maybe a month or so ago.
nice. It's yeah, I assume it's the same tour we saw because uh yeah, I mean it had to be if it was a month ago. That's
Yeah.
about when we saw them.
Yeah, I think it was
Um
just the beginning of their latest tour.
wait, did they start I thought they started in like California. I'm not sure.
Possible. I'm not sure either.
Maybe I don't know where they started. I thought it was somewhere kind of far though. Um so how old were you when you started playing guitar and like what was your first guitar?
Yeah, so good question. I missed that old guitar. I was about 14 years old. I was playing in the school band, played trumpet first and really didn't like it very much. Just didn't appeal to me. I liked the idea at first, but just, the practicalities of playing the trumpet just didn't work for me. My mother had a guitar sitting around the house, an old acoustic guitar with, nylon strings, and that sort of thing. And,
Yep.
I was always kind of interested in it. Uh, and she had been a musician in college as well. And, I started playing around with that. Took an interest in sort of learning how to play it. And, she got me enrolled in a class. And the first guitar that I really consider mine was an Ibanez guitar that I saved up for. The local music store had it, hanging on the wall, and it was an Ibanez CN 100. It was part of the concert series, is what they called it. I bought it, I think, in 1979, and the series was discontinued that very same year.
So
So you can't buy them anymore. They're really hard to find, but at the time it was considered kind of a budget brand. Ibanez has gotten to be a, little bit more respectable instrument these days. But back then they were copies of, you know, uh, other brands. And um, so, yeah, it was kind of a budget guitar, is one I could afford. I really liked it, and played it for a long time. I don't know where it went. I think I have an idea who might have borrowed it from me and never returned it. But yeah, that was it.
if it's out there somewhere,
It is. I hope, I hope it is.
I mean, it's definitely somewhere.
Yeah, I have a feeling. So, friend of the band, and roommate of our drummers, his name is Tommy Rodriguez. He's a guitar maker. And at the time he was kind of learning, his trade, and learning how to build pickups for electric guitars. And now he's like a world-renowned classical guitar maker. But at the time, he was kind of trying to figure out how guitars were made, and how to make them better. And I have a hunch that he may have taken it off my hands, and in fact, I may have actually sold it to him. I don't remember now. But yeah, I think there's a good chance he might have taken it apart, for parts, or tried to, customize it, or whatever. So, it could be around, but still not. It may not look anything like it originally did.
Yeah, like it could be it's the same, but it could be somewhere. It could be like, I mean, no, it could be different, but it's still like the same guitar, but it's like changed.
Yeah, yeah. Fingers crossed. I hope that's the case.
Yeah.
That it's still there
But
somewhere in some form.
yeah. Um, I mean, like my first guitar was also an Ibanez, so
Cool.
it was given to me by my, so would it be my great uncle? Yeah, because my dad's uncle, he gave me, I want to start playing guitar, so he gave me an acoustic and an electric guitar and some accessories. I was 10, so 2 years ago.
Sounds good. Not a
And
bad age to start. Yeah, and not a bad instrument to start with.
yeah, and now I can like actually play it and play songs. Like, yep. So I originally started with piano when I was like probably 7 or 8. Um, I mean, I never learned how to like play it, but I can still like just play like single notes, a few chords. That's about it. But like, I'm not like a really that good at piano, but I can play it.
Yeah, I wish I'd learned to play the piano. I mean, it's a really good instrument to start with, to help you
Yeah.
understand, not, I mean, it's a good instrument to help you understand music theory, which, just because you can, visually, you can see how the notes all work
Yeah,
together, and the
like
intervals and things.
everything's like laid out and you can just see, okay, that's C, that's F sharp, that's A flat. Like, okay.
Yeah,
Sometimes there's those like little stickers that you like put on each key to memorize it.
nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if GWAR or Death Piggy would have done so well with like a trumpet instead of guitar. I mean, I know the GWAR song Maggots has a trumpet in it. Meh, meh, meh. Like, you
So
know how,
I'll tell you that, yeah,
yeah,
I'll tell you what, we actually had a horn section with Death Piggy. So we had a couple of friends, one friend who played trombone, one who played saxophone, and one who played a trumpet. And occasionally, we would just say, hey, if you're coming to the show, bring your instrument, and just come up on stage and play with us. And they weren't always there, and we never really rehearsed with them or anything like that. But it was just sort of, um, we like to say that we had a horn section just because occasionally those guys would come up and play with us. In fact, we were at a party one night, and the host of the party was a trombone player, and we were just playing songs from our set list, and he just ran into the other room, grabbed his trombone, and said, "What key are you guys playing in?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. Just start playing." So,
Yeah, like with a lot of like punk and stuff like that, you don't really know the key. You kind of just play a riff you made up.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, it was fun to have those guys on stage with us.
Yeah, sounds fun. Um, so those weren't like the same people that recorded Trumpet for Maggots, right? Because you know how that song on it's on Scum Dogs of the Universe. You know the song?
Yeah, I do. I don't think it was. Yeah, the trumpet player left Richmond, and I think he went up to the Midwest somewhere. So I think it must have been somebody else.
Yeah, probably. I mean, there's probably a lot of trumpet players to find.
Exactly. Richmond has a VCU in Richmond has a big music school, and there was never any shortage of musicians who could play
Yeah,
more than one instrument.
definitely. So, what year did Death Piggy start and end?
1982 is when we started. The fall of 1982, I was just starting my senior year in high school, and Dave was just starting his first year at VCU. That's when we started. Now, we never really broke up. The band never really intended to stop. Uh, we got news, I think it was in 1982. So our drummer had moved out of Richmond and moved up to Connecticut, to the Boston area, outside of the Boston area. And he would come back occasionally, and we would do, a reunion show, or, another show really. But we never really broke up. We never really intended to, but we got the news about 1992 that Sean had passed away. And because it was really always just a three-piece band. I mean, we had another guitar player for a little while. He replaced me, and then we both played in the band for a while. But when Sean passed away, I mean, we knew there was just no replacement for him. Um, we've played with other drummers, but we just had sort of that common understanding of what we were trying to accomplish. And I think, when we lost Sean, we just realized that was it. So it was around 1992.
Yeah. So Death Piggy never broke up, right?
That's right.
So that means you're technically still in Death Piggy, right?
That is correct.
So Death Piggy's been going on pretty long. Just hasn't recorded any albums yet. I mean, since. But did you guys ever record any albums? Like,
Well, we recorded 3 7-inch EPs, extended play recordings. They were collected on a CD, and then actually you can see behind me, we've actually had a couple of versions of those things. So they're the 3 7-inch EPs on the bottom row there. And then the album versions up above are collections of those, of that same material. The green one, we added some tracks that were never released. So that included some never before heard stuff. We actually are talking to GWAR and Pit Records about doing one more release, which will be kind of the same material, but we actually have also found some unreleased live recordings of songs that later became part of the repertoire for the Dave Brocky Experience, which was kind of a side project that Dave had while he was in GWAR. But a number of those songs came from the Death Piggy set list, and he borrowed them, and we have uncovered these lost recordings of some of those performances, or some of those songs being performed.
Yep.
So they're not the best quality, but they're the best we've got. And, we're talking to GWAR about the prospect of putting together sort of a comprehensive Death Piggy album that will be part of their, their list of products.
Yeah, pretty
So,
cool. So you played GWAR for the first two shows, right?
yeah.
And the first one was the Suicidal Tendencies, which is
That's
awesome.
right. Yeah.
As you can see, I'm wearing my Suicidal Tendencies hat right now.
Yeah.
I really like them. So, what year was that show?
That was 1985. That was spring of 1985.
So
Yeah.
that's a little bit before my dad was born.
Okay.
So my dad was born June, what is it, 6th? June 4th. So I mean, I guess technically if you had my dad like at like 20 years old, you could be my grandpa.
It's possible. Yeah. It's hard for me to believe that, but I guess it's true. Sure.
Yeah. So I saw like the first GWAR flyers and they spelled GWAR like WARG, like GWARGHH, like that,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So the story behind that is we had a friend named Tim, who was kind of hung out with us. We basically all lived in the same house. We had an apartment with 5 rooms, and a bunch of us all lived together, save money on the rent, and Tim was always there. And we had come up with the idea for GWAR. So we had gotten these costumes. Dave had found these costumes at the studio of our friend Hunter Jackson, who later became Techno Destructo for the band. But he was making a movie at the time, and he had these costumes. And Dave said, "Hey, there's this whole bunch of costumes over at Hunter's studio. What do you think about using those?" And at the time, we were kind of experimenting with, different things that we would do on stage and different ways to kind of play our set list. And costumes were, one part of that. So, he came by with the costumes, and, we had at the time a bunch of songs that were kind of heavy metal songs that were kind of making fun of heavy metal. And I said, well, what if we put together a whole different band, and we come out, in these costumes, and we play this heavy metal set, and we open for ourselves. And everybody liked the idea, and we rehearsed the songs. I think there were maybe 5 songs in that first set list. And the last ingredient was, well, what are we going to call this? And so our friend Tim was there, and he and I were, I don't know, in the kitchen. I seem to recall maybe grabbing a beer or something to drink after rehearsal. And Tim just kind of made this noise. He was like, well, call it GWAR, and I said, well, how do you spell that? And he said, well, GWARRRHGH and something like that. And I said, that's perfect. We'll be the only band that has a noise instead of a name. And so that was kind of the original idea. And then over time, it just got a little inconvenient to keep spelling all those, or, using all those letters. So the guys kind of shortened it to 4
So
letters.
Was was GWAR the like heavy metal band?
Yes.
Okay. So wait, what was it Death Piggy that was the headlining band?
Well, so, Suicidal Tendencies was headlining that night, and we were invited up to play with them. And so we didn't tell the club this. We were at the 930 Club in Washington, D.C., and we didn't tell the club, but we said, we just decided we were going to create this opening band, and open for ourselves, opening for Suicidal Tendencies, which we thought was hilarious, But yeah, that was the idea.
Yeah, and you were like a magician, right? You had like a cape and a hat, right?
Yeah. So somehow, I was really never really had a name in the band, but this name, Mr. Magico, has gotten kind of stuck to me because here's what happened is we didn't tell the club, like I said, about the fact that we were going to open for ourselves. So we had to kind of stall them. So what we did is we played, what we figured out we had to do is play our set list as Death Piggy. And then all the other guys were going to run down into the back room and change into their GWAR costumes and come back up onto the stage before anybody knew what was going on. So the sound guy didn't shut down our set, and that nobody came up to change the amplifiers and instruments and things like that. So what I did was I had this magic trick that was meant for kids' parties, and I went to the store and bought myself a cape and a top hat, and I said, well, I'm going to get up there, I'm going to do this magic trick and just kind of keep people focused on what was going on stage, or make people think there was still something happening on stage. It seemed kind of ridiculous that I'd be doing a magic trick for these hardcore fans, but that's what I did. And just at the point where they were so mad at me for just doing this stupid magic trick, the other guys came rushing back up on stage. I threw on my guitar, we played our first GWAR set, and then we left and let Suicidal Tendencies have the stage. So that was kind of the way it worked out. But yeah, I kind of got stuck with this Mr. Magico character. And actually, a couple of years later, I did a cameo with the band, and they made me this costume, which was a sort of a wizard's costume with a tall, pointy hat and a robe with the stars and moons and things on it. And I came up and I played a song or two as kind of a cameo with GWAR.
So when was that?
It was probably in the early, well, kind of in the mid-90s somewhere. So there was a time when, and I think it was shortly after I left Richmond, went to Arizona for graduate school, and GWAR came out there at the time, and Mike Dirks, who's the guitar player for GWAR, Balzac is his character. He was having some issue back home, and I don't remember what that was, but they came through Phoenix, where I was living at the time, and Mike was having to fly back home, and they asked me if I wanted to join the tour with them and finish it out. And of course I was in school, so I couldn't do that. But I guess it got us talking about me doing a cameo at some point, and I think it was after that, sometime in the early '90s, that I came back to Richmond, and they had me on stage for that cameo.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Yeah. Like I really want to try to get like Mike on the podcast, because like I just really like his like Jaws.
He's a great guy. I hope you do. Yeah.
He's a cool, like his costume is really cool. Also,
Yeah, I think so.
Like it's the Chaos Pad, I think, and it's really cool. I want to get one of those because it has like effects on it.
Yeah.
Built in, you can go wee 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 wee.
Yeah. He's a great guy. I see him from time to time. I don't know when I'll see him next, but I'll put in a good word for you.
Yeah. So if you could, would you want to be in GWAR right now?
That's a great question. Probably not. I think just the lifestyle of having to, of touring, I don't think I would be real happy with that anymore. In fact, that's kind of one of the reasons I got out, because I realized that lifestyle just wasn't for me.
Yeah, it's definitely not for everyone.
Yeah, it's a hard way to live. I mean, it's fun for a little while, but yeah, it gets old fast. At least it does for me. But I still I'd still do a cameo with them or do a show or something with them if that were to work out, which probably is unlikely, but yeah, it probably wouldn't go any further than that.
Yeah. So did Death Piggy shows, or like the GWAR shows you were part of, have fake blood? And well, I know you said GWAR did costumes, but did they have like fake blood yet?
Yeah, so we started playing around with that. There was a little show that we did down in Newport News, Virginia Beach area. Um, and I don't know why we thought of this, but we just, for some reason, decided we were going to make some stage blood, and we called it. So we would sit down before each show and we would kind of decide what we were going to do. I mean, there was always, set list that we would come up with, but we would always talk about how we wanted to turn it into some kind of a performance. And sometimes it was just we would do something that we thought was funny, but nobody else would get. I mean, we hoped other people would kind of get it and think it was funny, but that didn't always happen. But so we came up with this idea of doing a murder show, where at the end of the show, our manager at the time was just going to come up with this. We had this plastic knife that we found somewhere. And we decided we were going to have him come up at the end of the show and murder us all. And then there'd just be this big bloody mess. And so we made up this stage blood out of Karo syrup and food coloring, simple as that. And we emptied out a bunch of dishwashing liquid bottles, squirt bottles. And we had him kind of stashed around the stage. And at the end of the stage, he came up. We were playing some song that just took forever to finish. And he just started, stabbing us with this plastic knife. And then, we just squirting us with this fake blood. And, so this long song ended by us being murdered. We thought, yeah, that's one way to end the show. And it turned out to be a huge mistake because Karo syrup is really sticky and there was no shower or anything like that at this club. So we had to ride home covered in syrup, basically in the middle of the night. And, our equipment was all, covered in syrup too. But yeah, that was kind of the very beginning. We thought, well, this is interesting. We'll see how else we can work this into what we do. And here we are today. And you're wearing the evidence of the fact that, we never really stopped after that.
Yeah. Like I'm glad they don't do syrup now because like this would be very. I mean, it probably wouldn't smell bad because it's syrup doesn't smell that bad. It'd just be very sticky and slimy.
It's what it was. Yeah.
But I think like during the GWAR set, like they came and threw out like these like blood bombs, and if it felt like it was jelly or something.
Huh. Yeah. Well, they're always kind of playing around with the formulas and, trying to come up with new ways to make things interesting.
Yeah.
So for me, when I go to a GWAR show, I stand as far away from the stage as possible, just because I feel like I've paid my dues when it comes to that kind of thing. But it's great that it's still part of the set. It seems like everybody has a lot of fun with it. So
Yeah. I so yeah, I crowd surfed at the show and I like put my hands up. I was like, shoot me. And I got like a mouth full of blood. I probably drank a little.
yeah, I hope it's safe for your sake.
I mean, it's like, isn't it like fancy stuff from like France and stuff? It's like natural. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I mean, I think it's, I mean, there's nothing artificially. I think it's basically made out of, it's a seaweed extract with coloring in it. So yeah, nothing harmful at all. And it may actually be good for you. Who knows?
Maybe. Okay, so can you tell me about the Death Piggy pinata you brought to a show?
Yeah, yeah. So that was a lot of fun. We, again, one of these, we were sitting around trying to figure out what we were going to do. And I don't remember exactly who decided or thought that we should make a pinata, but Dave and Sean were both art majors, so they always had a lot of art supplies and things like that sitting around. So we made this pinata. Sean's cat was very I don't know how to say this, but the litter box was always full. And college guys don't empty out things like litter boxes. They don't have time for that, right? So yeah, it was always full. I think sorry to say, might have been my idea. You know, we were going to put candy in the piñata, of course, because you got to do that. And then I thought, well, you know, why don't we make it interesting and fill it up with contents of the litter box? And everybody thought that was a great idea. You know, what a surprise that'll be, you know, when the piñata opens up. And,
Did
and then
like
I thought, so go ahead.
did it like go on the people?
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah. And one reason, you know, we also had a video arcade down the street, and we ran down there and we thought, well, you know, we got to give people some incentive to go diving into this stuff when the piñata opens up. So we went down, we got a roll of quarters, like $10 worth of quarters, and we threw them in there too. So yeah, so we in the show we had this stick with a big nail in it, which was probably a bad idea. But we handed it out and people started, you know, banging away at the piñata. It broke open and people saw the money and the candy and they went diving in. And it wasn't until after they were kind of all in a big pile on top of it that they kind of realized, you know, what else was in there. But, you know, it's just not, you know, just one of those things we like to do for our fans is give them some something something new and different to do at a punk rock show, right?
Yeah, but that can't be legal.
Well, you know,
You're
we
not,
weren't thinking about that at the time.
you're not in jail, so
That's right.
that was punk rock was very, very crazy in the 80s.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And
I'm,
we were trying to make it even more so.
it would have been fun to be at that show, but God, cleaning yourself up would be a nightmare.
Yeah. 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 Um, I mean, I think, you know, the people I've talked to were like, yeah, wasn't nice, but you know, they still laugh about it.
Wait, so
So
you've like met people that went to that show?
oh, of course. Yeah. Yeah. It was in our hometown. So it was most of our friends anyway. Or at least, you know, they were at the time. They may not be now, but
So, a weird question to ask about talking about cat feces.
yeah.
Well, what is the strangest thing you've ever eaten?
Oh boy. All right. Okay. So let me say two things. They may not be strange to some people in the world, but I think for Americans they are. So, um, you ever heard of durian?
The fruit?
Yeah,
Yeah. Never tried one, but I know you got. Don't you have to like? No, it stinks a lot, right?
it stinks. It's like rotting onions, that have been left in the bottom of your trash can, for way too long. Some people, well, I don't think anybody disputes that it smells bad. I think some people like the taste of it though. I did not, but I would have to say that's probably, I don't know if yeah, strange maybe isn't the word, but awful is maybe a word. And then, you know, a lot of people kind of think, the Scottish, food haggis is pretty strange and awful. And I've eaten that too, and I actually kind of like that, but you know,
And
I was talking to somebody about it to a British guy, and he was like, well, you know, it may not be as bad as you think. And I said, well, you know what? You're probably right. And so there was a restaurant not too far from where I lived that served it. So I went out and got some, and sure enough, he was right.
what is haggis? I know.
Haggis is made from like the bladder, I think, of a sheep, and then it's filled with like internal organs from a sheep.
I think I might
Um,
I hear about this more on. I might have heard of this. I'm kind of recalling it.
yeah, yeah. If you have a chance to try it, it might not be so bad. I would say it's kind of like meatloaf in a way, but if you don't think about what's in it, you know, it's probably better off. You're better off.
Maybe eat it with your eyes closed.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of try anything unless it has avocado in it. I hate avocado so much. I don't know what it is. Just can't do avocado.
I'm the same way about mushrooms.
I love mushrooms. I don't know why. I mean, yeah. Do you like avocado?
Only in certain things, like only in sushi, pretty much is the only way I'll eat it.
I'm
No other way.
I'm kind of fine with it in sushi because like that you don't taste it that much, so other stuff kind of overpowers it. But
Exactly.
straight like guacamole is just I don't know what it is. It's just something with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like that either. Yeah, I'm with you.
So, what is an animal you choose to scale up to the size of a horse and hang out with it? Like they didn't kill or eat you.
Hmm. Can this animal talk? Is that part of
Oh,
the list of possibilities, or is it just bigger?
um, I
Just
mean,
bigger.
yeah, probably just bigger. I don't think it could talk.
Okay, okay. Gosh, I don't know. I think elephants are pretty cool. If I could scale one down to that size.
Yeah,
Um,
a horse is smaller than a horse. I mean, an elephant like the size of a cat would be awesome. I want a little tiny.
yeah,
I just want like a baby elephant in my house. Because they're how big are baby elephants? They're like
Bigger than a cat.
yeah, they're bigger
yeah,
than a cat, but they're like
Like a
big-
horse.
Are they?
I don't know.
yeah. Maybe like a small one. Yeah, maybe like the size of a small sofa.
Probably.
Yeah,
I want like a elephant that stays the size of like a baby elephant forever, so I can just like ride it like a horse or something.
yeah, yeah. Or just hang out with it.
Yeah, but I could just like I don't need a car. I got an elephant.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. What
Yeah,
more do you need?
it'd also just be cool to have a little elephant buddy.
Yeah, 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 yeah. They're interesting animals.
Yeah, they're cool. So, what was your favorite TV show when you were my age?
Wow, that's a great question. There were so many, and we had so few channels back then too. Yeah, there was just a lot of good stuff. I was obsessed with cartoon shows. I'm sure you know all about Saturday morning cartoons from back in those days. We would just wake up on Saturdays and watch cartoons for hours, and um, they just had a lot of good stuff. My favorite cartoon, I think, was Johnny Quest, which was kind of an adventure cartoon. About a guy and his friend and their dad, who was a scientist, and they would go on adventures around the world. I liked Ultraman, which was a Japanese uh, sort of superhero show. He was like a giant, space hero who fought giant monsters, kind of similar to Godzilla, that sort of thing. But would just run home from school. That would come on in the afternoons, and would watch that. Johnny Quest was generally on Saturday mornings, but yeah, those were two of my favorites, I think.
So, have you ever heard of the band Less Than Jake?
No.
So they're like a ska punk band from Gainesville, Florida, and uh, I didn't know about the cartoon, but they have a song called Johnny Quest. Thanks for sellouts, and I guess that's what it's about. I didn't know it was a show. I just thought maybe it was a person.
Gotcha.
Now I know.
Yeah, yeah, it's worth checking out. I'm sure you can find episodes somewhere, streaming or online, but at the time it was just, it was a really good cartoon. It there were a couple episodes where people are killed in it, and you kind of think, well, okay, they're not really scale it, they're not really making this kid friendly necessarily, which, when you're that age, you kind of think, well, that's cool, at least they're not, you know, making me you know, talking down to me. So yeah, I thought it seemed like a serious adventure.
Yep. Um. Hello. Uh. You're frozen.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me still?
Yep. I got you. All right.
Okay, great.
Good. Okay. You were just frozen like for like 10 seconds.
Oh no. Yeah, I'm getting a message saying my connection's not bad. That happens, and it usually goes away pretty quickly. So fingers crossed, we're good to go.
We're almost done. So if you could tell your 12-year-old self anything at all, what would you tell him?
Gosh, I feel like part of me really has never stopped being my 12-year-old self. So pretty much anything I tell myself now.
Or
But yeah, all right. I guess a couple
maybe
of things, so I put the guitar away for a little while, because I hit kind of a wall. I wasn't sure how to get better at it. And I wasn't, just wasn't going anywhere with it. I think part of the problem was because I just didn't want to put the time in to learn the hard stuff, the little things like learning scales and, arpeggios and, things like that, that you kind of think, well, I'm not going to use that, or, that doesn't really make sense, or I'm beyond that or whatever. But, it's little things like that, that when I was younger, I kind of thought, well, that's too hard. I'm not going to, or it's going to take too much time. And I think just if I could go back and tell myself, just put in the time, just do it, kind of like taking out the trash, you hate doing it. But at the end of the day, you're going to be doing it for the rest of your life. So you might as well just get used to doing the little hard things that don't seem worthwhile, but ultimately are going to pay off for you. I don't know about taking the trash, if that's going to pay off for you, but learning things like scales and things like that that just don't seem to make a whole lot of sense yet. They do, in the end, it's worth the effort.
or maybe you could say keep your first guitar.
Yeah. I think at the time I thought I was trading up. But yeah, you never really kind of forget your first guitar. So that's good advice too.
Yep. So anything to add before we wrap it up?
I think we've covered everything that I can think of. But yeah, keep watching GWAR. I think there are going to be a lot of there are going to be some changes. I mean, our record's going to be coming out. Hopefully, we're still working on the details of trying to get that deal settled. But yeah, that should be coming up hopefully later this year, maybe sometime next year. Yeah, I mean, GWAR's always changing, always making things better. So yeah, keep watching for for what's next.
Yep. Well, so I'm gonna see GWAR in June in Reading, Pennsylvania.
Cool.
Yeah. They'll probably be near you, so you might want to see them again.
Yeah. I'm not sure when I'm going to get to see him next, but generally, they play Richmond fairly often, and that's easy for me to get to. So I'll probably be at the next Richmond show myself.
All right. Well, thanks to Russ for joining me today, and thanks to all you for watching or listening. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel or follow me on Spotify and other streaming platforms. Until next week, bye.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yep.